My name is Leah, and I'm 32 years old. 2 weeks ago, I held my newborn daughter Emma as she took her last breath. During the darkest day of my life, her funeral, the front row seats remained empty. My parents chose to attend my brother Michael's pool party instead. "It's just a baby," my mother said when I called her in tears. "Your brother needs family support for his new house." If you've ever felt betrayed by those who should have loved you most, please share where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button as I share how I survived this heartbreak. Before Emma came into my life, I had what many would consider a fulfilling existence. I worked as a pediatric nurse at Boston Children's Hospital, a career that filled me with purpose despite its emotional challenges. My husband Nathan, a physical therapist at the same hospital, had been my rock for the past 6 years. We met during a fundraiser for the pediatric oncology ward, bonding over our shared experiences with complicated family dynamics. Nathan understood the pain of never feeling good enough. His father had abandoned the family when he was 12, leaving emotional scars that took years of therapy to address. That shared understanding of family wounds created an unbreakable bond between us. What Nathan helped me see, through his perspective as an outsider looking in, was the deeply rooted favoritism my parents had always shown toward my younger brother Michael. Growing up in our suburban Connecticut home, the pattern was established early and never wavered. Michael, now 30, had been the golden child from the moment he kicked his first soccer ball at age 4. Every tournament, every game, my parents Barbara and Richard were front row, cheering wildly, filming every moment. His trophies dominated our living room shelves. His achievements became the center of every family conversation. Michael scored the winning goal. Michael got scouted by the high school coach. Michael might get a sports scholarship. I tried finding my own path to their approval. I maintained straight A's throughout school, joined debate team, volunteered at nursing homes, eventually graduated summa cum laude from nursing school. But my achievements were always footnotes in family discussions. "That's nice, Leah. Did you hear Michael made varsity as a freshman?" When I announced my acceptance to Boston University's nursing program, my mother's first response was, "That's far from home. You won't be able to attend Michael's games." The pattern continued into adulthood. Michael's job at our father's insurance company was described as executive training, though he started in sales like everyone else. My career saving children's lives was a nice, steady job. Meeting Nathan changed everything. He witnessed the dynamic during our first holiday together and couldn't stay silent. "Did anyone notice that Leah just mentioned she led the team that saved a 5-year-old's life this week?" he asked during Thanksgiving dinner, interrupting my father's 20-minute monologue about Michael's sales numbers. The uncomfortable silence that followed spoke volumes. After that dinner, Nathan encouraged me to establish boundaries. We limited visits. I stopped seeking their approval. Eventually, our relationship improved slightly, at least on the surface. They learned to ask about my work, though their interest seemed performative rather than genuine. When Nathan proposed after 2 years of dating, my parents attended our engagement party but left early for Michael's intramural basketball game. At our wedding, my father's toast mentioned Michael's achievements more than once. Nathan squeezed my hand under the table each time. After marriage, we bought a small colonial house in a Boston suburb and began trying for a baby. We both wanted children. Nathan, coming from a large, loving family, had beautiful visions of weekend gatherings and holiday traditions. What we didn't anticipate was the difficulty conceiving. Month after month, negative pregnancy tests accumulated in our bathroom trash. After a year, we consulted specialists. The diagnosis: unexplained infertility. We tried medications, timed intercourse, then moved to intrauterine insemination. Each failure cut deeply. Each monthly disappointment left me questioning my body's capabilities. Meanwhile, my mother regularly mentioned how fertile our family was, how she'd conceived both Michael and me without even trying. Our first positive pregnancy test came after 18 months of treatments. Our joy was immeasurable but short-lived. At 9 weeks, I began spotting. An ultrasound confirmed my fears: no heartbeat. "These things happen," the doctor said kindly. There's no reason you can't try again. We did try again. And again. 2 more pregnancies, 2 more losses. Each miscarriage deepened our grief, but somehow strengthened our resolve and our bond. Nathan never wavered. He held me through nights of sobbing, researched every possible treatment, and defended me when well-meaning friends offered unhelpful advice. After 3 years of this emotional roller coaster, we decided to try once more before considering other paths to parenthood. When the positive test appeared, we guarded our hearts carefully. We told no one until the 2nd trimester. We didn't set up a nursery early. We spoke of if rather than when. But as the weeks passed and each milestone was achieved, hope blossomed cautiously within us. And for the first time in my life, I believed something truly beautiful was happening. Reaching the 3rd trimester felt like crossing an invisible safety line. At 28 weeks, with our doctor's encouragement, we finally announced the pregnancy to our families. Nathan's parents immediately drove 3 hours to visit, bringing home-cooked meals and offering to help prepare the nursery. His mother Linda cried when she felt the baby kick. His father James started planning which baseball team would be the baby's first game experience. My parents' reaction was predictably underwhelming. "That's wonderful, honey," my mother said, her voice flat. "Did you hear Michael just put a down payment on a house? For bedrooms and a pool. He's really moving up in the world." I forced a smile, swallowing disappointment that had become all too familiar. "That's great for him. We're having a baby girl, by the way." "A girl? Well, I suppose that's nice too." Despite their reaction, I remained determined to focus on the positive. My pregnancy progressed normally, some heartburn and swollen ankles, but nothing concerning. Nathan painted the nursery a soft mint green. We assembled furniture on weekends, carefully selecting each item. My colleagues threw a beautiful baby shower with tiny cupcakes and thoughtful gifts. Nathan's family drove up again, his mother presenting a handmade quilt that had taken months to complete. My parents sent a gift card with a note saying they were too busy helping Michael with house hunting to attend. At 36 weeks, during a routine checkup, my obstetrician frowned while measuring my fundal height. "You're measuring a bit small. Let's do an ultrasound just to check everything." The technician was quiet during the scan, too quiet. She excused herself to get the doctor. Minutes later, my obstetrician returned with a maternal-fetal medicine specialist. "The baby isn't growing as expected," she explained gently. "And there are some concerns about blood flow through the placenta. We're also seeing some potential cardiac abnormalities that weren't visible in earlier scans." She recommended immediate admission to the hospital for monitoring. Nathan called our families while I packed a small bag, hands trembling. His parents promised to drive up immediately. My parents said they'd try to visit soon, but were busy helping Michael move furniture into his new house. For 2 days, I lay in a hospital bed, connected to monitors, terrified with each deceleration of our daughter's heartbeat. Tests confirmed the baby had developed a severe congenital heart defect that hadn't been detected in earlier scans. The placental insufficiency meant she wasn't getting adequate nutrition or oxygen. On the 3rd day, the decision was made to perform an emergency C-section. Everything happened in a blur. The operating room's harsh lights, the blue surgical drapes, Nathan's eyes above his mask, wide with fear and love. Emma Rose Sullivan was born weighing 4 pounds 3 ounces. She didn't cry. Instead of placing her on my chest, the neonatal team whisked her to a warming station. I caught only a glimpse of dark hair before they rushed her to the NICU. Hours later, still groggy from anesthesia, Nathan wheeled me to see our daughter. Tiny Emma lay in an incubator, connected to more tubes and wires than seemed possible for her small body. A ventilator breathed for her. Monitors beeped continuously. "She's beautiful," Nathan whispered, his voice breaking. The cardiologist came to explain Emma's condition. She had hypoplastic left heart syndrome, essentially half a functioning heart. Without immediate intervention and eventually multiple surgeries, she couldn't survive. Even with surgeries, her prognosis was guarded at best. "Many children with this condition do survive with surgical intervention," he explained. But given her low birth weight, placental issues, and some additional complications we're seeing with her lungs, her case is particularly complex. We spent that night researching, talking, crying, and praying. Nathan's parents arrived, providing silent support as we weighed impossible options. My parents called briefly, saying they'd visit after things settled down. By morning, after consulting with multiple specialists, we made the most heartbreaking decision of our lives. Emma's condition was more severe than initially thought. The first surgery would likely cause immense suffering with minimal chance of success. Instead of putting her through painful procedures that might only prolong the inevitable, we chose comfort care. We want whatever time she has to be peaceful, I told the medical team, my nursing background both a blessing and curse in understanding exactly what lay ahead. They removed Emma from the ventilator and placed her in my arms for the first time. Nathan sat beside us on the hospital bed, his arm around my shoulders. For 2 precious days, we held our daughter, memorizing her face, counting her fingers and toes, telling her how loved she was. Emma passed away peacefully in our arms on the 3rd day of her life. The sun was rising, casting a golden glow through the hospital window as she took her final breath. In that moment, part of my heart died with her. The days following Emma's death passed in a fog of grief. I was discharged from the hospital with empty arms and a prescription for pain medication to manage my C-section recovery. Physical pain from the surgery seemed trivial compared to the crushing weight of loss that made breathing itself an effort. Nathan handled most of the funeral arrangements while I moved through our home like a ghost. The nursery door remained closed. I couldn't bear to see the crib that would remain empty, the unworn clothes still folded with their tags attached. We need to decide about the service, Nathan said gently on the 2nd day home. The funeral director needs to know if we want a viewing or just a graveside service. I couldn't imagine allowing people to file past my baby's tiny body, offering platitudes that wouldn't ease our pain. Just a small service, I whispered. At the chapel near your parents' church. He nodded, making notes in the leather-bound planner his mother had brought over. Linda had been an incredible support, bringing meals, sitting quietly with me when I couldn't speak, and helping Nathan with practicalities when grief overwhelmed him. We should call your parents, Nathan suggested cautiously. They should know the funeral date. I hadn't spoken to them since Emma's birth. They'd sent flowers to the hospital with a card saying, "Congratulations on your new arrival," clearly ordered before knowing the gravity of the situation. They hadn't called again after learning of her condition. With trembling fingers, I dialed my mother's number. She answered on the 4th ring, television blaring in the background. "Leah, how are you feeling? Recovering well from the surgery?" Her cheerful tone felt like a slap. "Mom, Emma died 3 days ago." A pause. "Oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry." The flatness in her voice told me everything.
No shock. No debe estar bien.
Just polite sympathy, as if I'd mentioned a minor disappointment. "We're planning the funeral for next Saturday at 11, I continued, my voice mechanical. "At the Riverside Chapel. Next Saturday?"
Her tone changed.
"Oh, that's the same day as Michael's housewarming. He's having a big pool party to celebrate the new place." My hand tightened around the phone. "I'm sure he'll understand rescheduling given the circumstances." "Well, he's already sent out invitations. A lot of people are coming. Your father's friends from work, some potential clients." I closed my eyes, letting the implications sink in. "Are you saying you won't be at your granddaughter's funeral because of Michael's pool party?" "Now, Leah, don't put words in my mouth. I'm just saying it's unfortunate timing. We'll try to make it work." The call ended with her vague promise to try to be there. I relayed the conversation to Nathan, who struggled to hide his anger behind a mask of composure for my sake. "They'll come," he assured me, though his tone lacked conviction. No one would miss their grandchild's funeral. The following days were filled with heartbreaking decisions no parent should face. Choosing a casket, the smallest one available, white with silver handles. Selecting flowers, white lilies and baby's breath. Writing an obituary for a life just begun. Each task was a fresh wound. My colleagues from the pediatric ward rallied around us. They organized meal deliveries, sent cards filled with memories of my pregnancy journey, and promised to attend the service. Nathan's entire family planned to drive in from different states. My childhood friend Stephanie flew in from California to stay with us. The night before the funeral, my phone chimed with a text message from my mother. Unfortunately, we won't be able to make it tomorrow. Michael really needs family support for his big day. I'm sure you understand. Sending love. I stared at the screen in disbelief before calling immediately. No answer. I tried my father's phone. Straight to voicemail. I called the house line. No response. I sent a desperate text. Mom, this is my daughter's funeral. Your granddaughter. Please. An hour later, she replied, We've already committed to Michael's event. All the family will be there. Maybe we can visit the grave another time. These things happen, Leah. You can always have another baby. I showed Nathan the message, watching his face contort with an anger I'd never seen before. He took the phone from my hands, set it aside, and held me as I sobbed until exhaustion finally pulled me into restless sleep. The morning of Emma's funeral dawned gray and drizzly, fitting the hollow ache in my chest. I stood before the bathroom mirror, barely recognizing the pale, hollow-eyed woman staring back. My C-section incision throbbed as I carefully dressed in a black maternity dress I never expected to wear this way. Nathan moved quietly through our bedroom, straightening his tie with unsteady hands. Neither of us had eaten breakfast. Neither of us had spoken much since waking. What words could possibly matter today? Are you ready? He asked softly, offering his arm for support. I nodded, though readiness was impossible. How could anyone be ready to bury their child? The drive to the chapel passed in silence. In the parking lot, I noticed cars filling the small lot, more than I'd expected. Nathan helped me from the car, his hand firm against my lower back as we walked slowly toward the entrance. Inside, the chapel was transformed by soft lighting and floral arrangements. At the front, Emma's tiny white casket sat surrounded by flowers. The sight of it, so small, so final, nearly buckled my knees. Nathan's arm tightened around my waist, bearing my weight. As we moved down the aisle, faces turned toward us. Nathan's parents rose immediately, embracing us with tears streaming down their faces. Linda held me longer, whispering, We're here. We're all here for you both. My colleagues from the pediatric ward filled 2 rows, many openly weeping. Friends from nursing school, neighbors, even my primary care physician had come. The chapel was nearly full, except for the front row seats reserved for my parents and brother. Their absence created a void more painful than I could have imagined. The service began with soft music, a lullaby I'd hummed to Emma during pregnancy. The hospital chaplain who had blessed Emma before she passed spoke of brief lives leaving eternal impacts. A nurse who had cared for Emma read a poem about tiny footprints leaving giant impressions on hearts. When it came time for us to speak, Nathan helped me to the podium. I had written and rewritten what I wanted to say, but looking out at the gathered mourners, my prepared words evaporated. Instead, I spoke directly from my broken heart. Emma lived for only 3 days, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. But she was loved for 9 months before that. And she'll be loved for the rest of our lives. She taught us that love isn't measured in time. She showed us strength can come in the tiniest packages. And she reminded us that family isn't always who shares your blood, but who shows up when you're bleeding. My gaze drifted to the empty seats in the front row. Nathan's hand found mine, squeezing gently. After the chapel service, we proceeded to the cemetery. The pediatric nurses formed an honor guard, each holding a white balloon. At the small gravesite, beneath a maple tree, final prayers were offered. As Emma's casket was lowered into the ground, the nurses released their balloons, watching them drift toward the now clearing sky. I placed a single white rose on the casket before it disappeared from view. Sleep well, my sweet girl, I whispered. Mom and Dad love you forever. While accepting condolences from attendees, I reflexively checked my phone, a habit from days of anxiously awaiting updates from the NICU. Instead of messages from my parents, I found Instagram notifications. Michael had tagged me in photos from his pool party. With trembling fingers, I opened the app. There they were, my parents, smiling broadly beside a beaming Michael in front of his new in-ground pool. Guests with cocktails filled the background. My mother wore a floral sundress, laughing with a champagne flute in hand. My father stood proudly with his arm around Michael's shoulders. The caption read, "Family celebrating my first home purchase. #blessed #family first," the timestamp. 2 hours ago, during Emma's funeral, I showed the phone to Nathan, watching his face darken with fury. He took several deep breaths, visibly struggling to maintain composure for my sake. "Let's go home," he said quietly, pocketing my phone. "These people actually care about us. Let's focus on them today." The remainder of the graveside service passed in a blur. I accepted hugs mechanically, thanked people automatically, but felt disconnected from my body. The reality of my parents' choice had created a new layer of grief I hadn't thought possible. Back home, Nathan's family helped arrange the small reception. Plates of untouched food covered our dining table. Sympathetic voices murmured throughout our living room. I excused myself to lie down, the physical pain from surgery finally overwhelming my emotional numbness. Hours later, after everyone had left and Nathan had cleaned up, my phone rang. My mother's name flashed on the screen. Nathan looked at me questioningly. I nodded, putting the call on speaker.
"Leah?"
"How was the service?" Her tone was casual, as if asking about a routine doctor's appointment. "Huh, what do you think it was, Mom?" My voice sounded foreign to my own ears. "It was my daughter's funeral." "Well, I hope it provided closure. These things happen, you know. Michael's party was lovely. Everyone asked about you." I felt my hands begin to shake. "Did you tell them I was burying my baby while you were drinking champagne by the pool?" "Now, Leah, there's no need for that attitude. It was just a baby. You barely knew her. Michael really needed family support for his big day. He worked so hard for that house." The words struck like physical blows.
"Just a baby. Just."
"A baby. She had a name," I whispered.
"Emma."
"Your granddaughter's name was Emma." "Well, yes, of course. All I meant was that you're young. You can always have another baby. Michael only gets one first house." Nathan reached for the phone, his face flushed with anger. "Barbara, this is Nathan. What you've done is unforgivable. Your daughter needed you today. Your granddaughter deserved your presence. Instead, you chose a pool party. Don't call again until you're ready to apologize properly." He ended the call before she could respond, then pulled me into his arms as fresh sobs racked my body. The week following Emma's funeral unfolded in a haze of grief. Nathan returned to work for half-days, reluctantly leaving me alone after making sure I had everything I needed. I spent hours in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying my mother's words.
"Just a baby.
You can always have another baby." The physical reminders of Emma surrounded me, my still swollen abdomen, engorged breasts that painfully reminded me of milk my baby would never need, the incision slowly healing across my lower abdomen. Each sensation a cruel reminder of what should have been. I lost interest in eating. Showering required monumental effort. Nathan would return from work to find me in the same position he'd left me, untouched food on the bedside table. "Leah," he said gently on the 5th day, sitting beside me on the bed. "I'm worried about you. You need to eat something. Maybe talk to someone." I turned away, pulling the blanket higher. "What's the point?" His hand stroked my hair softly. "The point is that you're still here. And I need you. We'll get through this together, but you have to try." I just agreed to call my doctor about antidepressants when the doorbell rang. Nathan went to answer while I pulled myself upright, wiping at days-old tears. Moments later, I heard familiar voices in the hallway. My parents. Panic seized me as their footsteps approached the bedroom. "Look who's here," Nathan announced, his tone carefully neutral though his eyes conveyed a silent apology and promise of support. My mother bustled in carrying a pink gift bag. My father followed awkwardly, hands shoved in his pockets. Leah, honey, you look terrible. Mother set the bag down and surveyed the darkened room with disapproval. This isn't healthy. You need to get up, get dressed, get back to life. I stared at her, speechless. She looked perfectly normal, hair freshly styled, makeup flawless, as if the past week had been completely ordinary. We brought you something, she continued, pushing the gift bag toward me. A little pick-me-up. Inside was a newborn onesie with Grandma's angel embroidered across the front. I dropped it as if burned. What is this? I finally managed. For when you're ready to try again, she explained, smiling brightly. No time like the present to get back on the horse, right? Nathan's sharp intake of breath matched my own shock. Barbara, he warned, this isn't appropriate. Oh, stop being so dramatic, my father interjected. Life goes on. Plenty of women lose babies and bounce right back. Leah's mother had a miscarriage between you two, and she was fine in no time. Emma wasn't a miscarriage, I said quietly. She was our daughter.
She lived. She died.
We held her. My mother waved dismissively. Same difference. The point is, you're young and healthy. No reason you can't have another baby soon. Is that why you couldn't attend her funeral? I asked, a spark of anger finally penetrating my fog of depression. Because she wasn't real to you? Now, Leah, my father said sternly, your brother was very disappointed you missed his big day. He worked hard for that house. It was important to him to have family there. And my daughter's funeral wasn't important. My voice rose. Your granddaughter's funeral wasn't worth rescheduling a pool party? Michael had already sent invitations, my mother explained, as if to a petulant child. People took time off work. We couldn't possibly change everything because of circumstances. Circumstances. The word hung in the air. My baby dying was a circumstance to you? You're being melodramatic, my father sighed. Always were too sensitive. Something inside me snapped. Years of suppressed feelings erupted at once. Get out, I said, my voice deadly calm. Excuse me? My mother's eyes widened. Get out of my house.
Now.
I stood from the bed, ignoring the pain in my abdomen. You missed my daughter's funeral for a pool party. You called her just a baby. You've shown me exactly where I stand with you, where I've always stood. Second place. Always less important than Michael. That's ridiculous, my father blustered. We've always treated you kids equally. Nathan stepped forward. Richard, with all due respect, that's blatantly untrue. I've witnessed the favoritism since the day I met you. But missing Emma's funeral crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. My mother's face hardened. We're your parents, Leah. You don't speak to us this way. Parents show up, I countered, finding strength I didn't know I possessed. Parents support their children through loss. Parents don't dismiss the death of their grandchild as an inconvenience. We've done everything for you. My father's voice rose. Paid for your education, supported your career choices. You paid for Michael's education. I corrected. I had scholarships and student loans. You've never supported me emotionally, never celebrated my achievements, never put me first. Not once in my entire life. That's not true, my mother protested. We came today, didn't we? With a onesie for my replacement baby? I laughed bitterly. That's not support. That's cruelty. My father's face flushed with anger. If you're going to be ungrateful, maybe we should rethink helping you financially. You've never helped us financially, Nathan interjected calmly. We've been completely independent since our marriage.
Fiend.
My father grabbed my mother's arm. If this is the thanks we get for trying to help, we'll leave. But don't come crying to us when you realize family is all you have. This isn't family. I gestured between us. This is obligation. And I'm releasing you from it. They left in a flurry of slammed doors and squealing tires. Minutes later, my phone buzzed with text messages from Michael. Way to go, drama queen. Mom's crying because of you. Always have to make everything about you, don't you? It was just a funeral. My housewarming was a once-in-a-lifetime event. With steady hands, I blocked his number, then my parents' numbers. I deleted their social media connections. As I put down the phone, I felt Nathan's arms encircle me. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. For the first time since Emma's death, I felt a flicker of something besides grief, resolve.
No, i ensuara't honestly.
But I think I might be someday. 2 weeks after the confrontation with my parents, I sat in a leather armchair across from Dr. Frances Morgan, a therapist specializing in both grief counseling and family trauma. Nathan had found her through his hospital connections, gently encouraging me to give therapy a chance. "Tell me why you're here, Leah," she said, her kind eyes studying me carefully. I took a deep breath. I lost my daughter, and then I lost my family of origin. Or maybe I never really had them to begin with. I'm not sure which is more painful. Over the next hour, I poured out the story. Emma's birth and death, my parents' absence at the funeral, their callous remarks afterward, and the lifetime of feeling second best that preceded it all. Dr. Morgan listened attentively, occasionally making notes. When I finished, she set her notepad aside. "Leah, you're dealing with compound grief. The loss of your daughter alone would be devastating. But the betrayal by your parents has created a secondary loss, the loss of the support system you deserved during this time." The validation in her words released something inside me. For the first time, I allowed myself to acknowledge that my parents' behavior wasn't just disappointing, it was genuinely wrong. That evening, I told Nathan about the session. Dr. Morgan suggested I join a support group for parents who've lost infants. "There's one that meets at the hospital." He squeezed my hand. "I think that's a great idea. Would you like me to go with you?" The following Tuesday, we attended our first meeting in a small conference room at Boston Children's Hospital. 6 other couples and 3 individual parents sat in a circle of chairs. A social worker named Teresa facilitated. "We have new members tonight," she said warmly. "Would you like to introduce yourselves?" Nathan spoke when I couldn't find words. "I'm Nathan Sullivan, and this is my wife Leah. We lost our daughter Emma 3 weeks ago to hypoplastic left heart syndrome. She lived for 3 days." Murmurs of sympathy filled the room. As the meeting progressed, parents shared their stories. A couple named James and Sandra had lost twins at 26 weeks. A mother named Alicia had lost her son to SIDS. A father named Marcus attended alone, his wife too depressed to leave home after their daughter's stillbirth. For the first time since Emma's death, I was surrounded by people who truly understood. No one offered platitudes. No one suggested I move on or try again soon. They simply acknowledged the pain and held space for it. "The hardest part," said a woman named Rachel, "is how the world expects you to function normally when your entire universe has collapsed." My boss asked when I'd be back to my old self, 2 weeks after we buried our son. Heads nodded around the circle. I found myself speaking without planning to. My parents didn't come to the funeral. They went to my brother's pool party instead. They told me it was just a baby, and I could have another one. The stunned silence that followed was eventually broken by Marcus. I don't even have words for that level of cruelty." "Family can surprise you," Sandra added gently. "Sometimes negatively, like yours. Sometimes positively. My sister moved in with us for a month after we lost the twins. My husband's brother, who never cries, sobbed with us at the funeral. After the meeting, several members exchanged phone numbers with us. Rachel hugged me tightly before leaving. Text me anytime. Even at 3 a.m. Especially at 3 a.m. At home that night, Nathan helped me gather the courage to enter the nursery for the first time since Emma's death. We stood in the doorway together, his arm around my waist for support. "We don't have to do this now," he assured me. "I think I need to," I replied. The room remained exactly as we'd prepared it, crib with elephant-patterned sheets, changing table stocked with diapers she never used, rocking chair where I'd imagined nursing her. The air felt stagnant, suspended in time and expectation. I moved slowly to the dresser, opening the top drawer filled with tiny clothes. Taking a deep breath, I selected a few special items. The coming home outfit she never wore, a knit cap with bare ears, booties Linda had crocheted. The rest, I knew, would eventually be donated, but not yet. Nathan found a decorative box in our closet. Together, we created a memory box for Emma, her hospital bracelet, ink prints of her tiny feet and hands, the card from her bassinet in the NICU, a lock of dark hair the nurse had thoughtfully preserved, and the few photos we'd taken during her brief life. "She had your nose," Nathan said softly, touching a photo where Emma's profile was visible despite the ventilator tubes. "And your chin," I added, tracing the slight cleft with my fingertip. These small moments of connection with Emma's memory, acknowledging her features, her existence, her impact, provided unexpected comfort. Days passed. I began taking short walks around our neighborhood. I managed simple meals. I texted with Rachel and Sandra from a support group. Small steps, but progress nonetheless. Then came the first attempt at contact from my mother, a text message 3 weeks after our confrontation. "Leah, this silent treatment has gone on long enough. Your father and I are concerned about you. Michael feels terrible about the misunderstanding. We're family. Let's move past this unpleasantness. No apology. No acknowledgement of wrongdoing. Just pressure to pretend nothing had happened." I showed Nathan the message, without responding to it. "Classic," he said, shaking his head. "Are you going to answer?" "Not yet," I decided. "Maybe not ever." More messages followed over the next few days. Then my mother employed flying monkeys, mutual acquaintances and distant relatives who suddenly reached out with concern about the family situation. My second cousin Tiffany called. "Your mother is absolutely devastated that you're shutting her out during your time of need." My parents' neighbor sent an email. "Your parents miss you terribly and don't understand why you've cut them off when they're trying to help." My father's secretary left a voicemail. "Your dad isn't himself lately. He's worried sick about you." I deleted the messages without responding. Dr. Morgan affirmed this boundary during our sessions. "They're attempting to re-establish control without acknowledging the harm they've caused," she explained. "Maintaining your boundary isn't cruel, it's self-preservation." 4 weeks after the funeral, Michael showed up unannounced at our front door on a Saturday morning. I was alone. Nathan had gone for a run. "We need to talk," he announced, pushing past me into the foyer. I wrapped my cardigan tighter around myself, physically and emotionally defensive. "I have nothing to say to you. This has gone on long enough, Leah. Mom's upset. Dad's angry. You need to apologize and fix this." The audacity stunned me. I need to apologize? For what exactly? "Being upset that my parents skipped my daughter's funeral for your pool party." He rolled his eyes. "It wasn't just a pool party. It was my housewarming. A major life milestone. And my daughter's funeral wasn't? Look, I'm sorry about the baby. That sucks. But you're making this way bigger than it needs to be. They're our parents. They do everything for us." "They do everything for you," I corrected. "They've always done everything for you." "That's not true. They love us equally." The absurdity of his statement might have been comical in another context. "Michael, they missed my child's funeral for your party. There is no clearer statement of priority than that." He shifted uncomfortably. "That was unfortunate timing. You could have rescheduled. I had already sent invitations. People took time off work." I studied my brother's face, the genuine bewilderment there. He truly couldn't comprehend why his party should have been postponed for my daughter's funeral. The realization was both heartbreaking and clarifying. "You should go," I said quietly. "Not until you agree to call Mom and Dad." "That's not happening." "Why are you being so stubborn?" His voice rose. "This family worked perfectly fine until you started making waves." "It worked perfectly fine for you," I replied. "It never worked for me. I was just too conditioned to accept scraps of attention to realize how dysfunctional it all was." The front door opened as Nathan returned from his run. He assessed the situation immediately, moving to stand beside me. "Everything okay here?" he asked, his tone deceptively calm. Michael glared at him. "This doesn't concern you. This is family business." "Leah is my family," Nathan replied simply. "And you're upsetting her in our home." "Of course you're taking her side," Michael scoffed. You've been poisoning her against us since day one. Your actions speak for themselves, Nathan said. Now I think it's time for you to leave. Michael looked between us, seemingly realizing he wouldn't get his way. This isn't over. Mom and Dad won't tolerate this treatment forever. After he left, I sank onto the couch, trembling slightly. He really doesn't get it. None of them do. Nathan sat beside me. Some people never will. The question is, what do you need going forward? It was a question I'd been considering in therapy. I need to accept that the supportive, loving parents I always wanted don't exist. Never did. I need to grieve that loss alongside Emma's. Nathan nodded. And I'll be right here while you do. That evening, I made a decision that felt like a small step toward healing. I emailed my supervisor at the hospital about returning to work part-time. Helping other children wouldn't bring Emma back, but perhaps it could give purpose to my days again. I also spoke with Linda about creating a small foundation in Emma's name, something to help families facing similar situations. The idea of Emma's memory bringing comfort to others provided a glimmer of meaning amid the darkness. For the first time since losing Emma, I felt a fragile sense of possibility. Not healing. That seemed too ambitious yet, but perhaps movement towards something beyond mere survival. 6 months after Emma's funeral, I stood at her grave, replacing wilted flowers with fresh spring blooms. The small headstone read simply, Emma Rose Sullivan, forever loved. Nathan knelt beside me, brushing leaves from the marble surface. Half a year, he said softly. Sometimes it feels like yesterday. I nodded, watching sunlight filter through the maple trees overhead. Other times it feels like a lifetime ago. We'd established this monthly ritual, visiting Emma's grave together, talking to her about our lives, maintaining the connection despite her physical absence. These visits were no longer the crushing experiences they'd been initially. Grief still came in waves, but I'd learned to swim rather than drown. My return to the pediatric ward had been gradual, first just 2 shifts a week, then 3. Being surrounded by children was both painful and healing. My colleagues had welcomed me back with sensitivity, creating space for difficult moments when they arose. Nathan and I had found a new rhythm together, forever changed but not destroyed by our loss. We attended grief support groups twice monthly. We spoke Emma's name daily, keeping her memory alive between us. We'd even begun tentatively discussing trying for another child someday, not to replace Emma, but to expand the love we had to give. My relationship with my parents remained severed. Their final attempt at reconciliation had come 3 months after Emma's death, a formal email from my father. Your mother and I are willing to put this unfortunate situation behind us, if you're ready to rejoin the family. Michael's birthday dinner is next month. Your presence would show maturity and a desire to move forward. No acknowledgement of wrong.
No genuine apology.
Just another demand to pretend nothing had happened. I didn't respond. Instead, I found unexpected healing in a support group for adults with narcissistic parents. The stories shared there helped me understand the dynamics that had shaped my childhood and continued into adulthood. I wasn't alone in my experiences. The validation was powerfully therapeutic. You know what I've realized? I told Nathan one evening, as we sat on our back porch. Emma gave me the strength to break cycles that might have continued forever. He took my hand, listening intently, as I continued. Before her, I accepted scraps of attention and affection from my parents because I didn't believe I deserved more. I would have kept doing that forever, kept putting myself in second place because that's where they always put me. And now, he prompted gently. Now I understand what real love looks like. What we had for Emma, what we still have for her. That's real love. Unconditional. Powerful. Nothing like what my parents offered me. The most profound lesson Emma taught me was the true meaning of family, not defined by blood or obligation, but by presence, support, and genuine care. Nathan's parents had demonstrated this repeatedly, driving hours to attend therapy sessions with us, helping establish the Emma Rose Foundation, respecting our grief without rushing us to move on. My chosen family expanded beyond blood relations. The bonds formed in grief support groups created connections deeper than many lifelong friendships. Rachel and Sandra had become dear friends. Marcus and his wife had joined us for dinner several times. We understood each other in ways others couldn't. Perhaps the most meaningful connection came unexpectedly through work. 3 months after returning to the hospital, I encountered a pregnant woman named Alyssa in the cardiology department waiting room. Her unborn daughter had been diagnosed with the same heart condition as Emma. When she dissolved into tears after receiving the diagnosis, I sat beside her. "I lost my daughter to HLHS 6 months ago," I told her quietly. "I understand how overwhelming this feels." Instead of offering false reassurance, I listened. I shared resources I'd gathered during our brief journey with Emma. I connected her with specialists and support groups. When she decided to pursue surgical intervention, I respected her choice without judgment, knowing each family's path is unique. Helping Alyssa navigate territory I'd walked transformed something of my pain into purpose. It didn't erase the grief, but it wove meaning into it. In our backyard, Nathan and I created a small memorial garden for Emma. We planted forget-me-nots and angels' trumpets around a stone bench. This peaceful space became my thinking spot, where I could feel connected to both my loss and my growth. Sitting there one evening, I received a text from Alyssa. Her daughter had survived her first surgery. Attached was a photo of a tiny baby, tubes and monitors everywhere but alive. "We named her Hope," the message read. "Thank you for helping us find it." That night, I wrote in my journal, a practice Dr. Morgan had encouraged. "Emma lived for 3 days, but her impact continues. Through the foundation bearing her name, through the families I can now support, through the boundaries I've learned to set, through the healing Nathan and I are building together. I couldn't protect Emma from her heart condition, but I can protect her legacy. I can ensure her brief life continues to matter." Life after profound loss isn't about getting over it or moving on, phrases I'd come to despise. It's about integration, carrying the grief while continuing to live. Finding meaning not despite the pain, but sometimes because of it. I still have difficult days. Birthdays that won't be celebrated. Milestones never reached. But I've learned that grief and gratitude can coexist. Sorrow and purpose aren't mutually exclusive. If you're walking through loss right now, whether it's the loss of a loved one or the loss of the family support you deserved, please know you're not alone. Your feelings are valid. Your boundaries are necessary. Healing isn't linear, and it doesn't mean forgetting. Sometimes family is who shares your DNA. Sometimes it's who shows up when you need them most. Sometimes it's who you find along the way. And sometimes the most profound connections come from those who are with us for the shortest time. Emma taught me that. And for that lesson, among so many others, I'll be forever grateful to my daughter. If this story resonated with you, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you experienced family betrayal during your darkest moments? How did you find healing? What boundaries have you needed to set for your well-being? Your experiences might help someone else feeling alone in their journey. Don't forget to subscribe to hear more stories of survival and resilience, and thank you for being part of this healing community. Remember, sometimes our deepest wounds become our greatest sources of strength and compassion.